The more you like, share, and subscribe, the more content we can make. Let's run these numbers up. Support a new channel. Hey, thanks for the support. Make sure you watch to the end, though. We got a lot of news stories and stuff that we're covering. This one's wild, because the thought of police officers not carrying guns is like an artist not having their pencil. Most people with common sense, which is probably not most people, would think that if you say the term police officer, you're talking about someone who's been through the academy, they got all their equipment, they got their firearm, full uniform, all their gear. That's what most people with common sense think. So why is it then that you have a police department like the Baltimore City School Police that's created to protect the staff and students and the property of Baltimore City schools? Why is it that a department like that exists where all the officers go through the same police academy that everybody else in the state does, but they're limited in terms of their ability to carry their firearms in a city that has been nationally ranked in how dangerous it is? How does it make sense? Today we're going to look at a few news stories and segments to put this all together so you can see which is one of the many problems with the city of Baltimore and how they get down. Now let's take a flashback, so we can paint the picture. This is back to March 2023, where Baltimore made the news because of all the violence that was going on surrounding school campuses. Now, some of the officials, of course, wanted to paint the picture of, hey, this stuff isn't happening like on campus or in the schools. A lot of times it's, these are incidents that are off campus. But hey, if, your loved one, let's say, works at the grocery store and somebody gets shot, stabbed, or killed on the sidewalk that borders the grocery store, and every other week it's something going on one of the sidewalks that borders the grocery store that loved one works at, is that not a problem for the grocery store? Do you not have a problem with that? That's in the immediate vicinity of the place that your loved one works at. So same thing with the schools. If you have stuff going on in the immediate vicinity, that's a problem. And that makes it that makes it that much more of a concern, when it comes to stuff being in the schools. Because it's like, if this is happening, right outside the school borders, it doesn't seem like it's that far from being able to potentially find its way into the school or affect the students, more than it already has in some way, shape, or form. Let's take a look at the news story.
On the Patterson campus on Tuesday, extra police were on hand to make sure students showing up for grief counseling could enter the building safely. A 16-year-old student's death off campus Monday comes as the district says it continues to keep safety a priority.
We cannot have eyes in every single place, but if you look at our investment in cameras, you look at our investments in weapons detection, and you look at the protocols in place here at this school, those protocols are in place.
Cameras are visible outside Patterson High, one of 4 schools where the district has installed a weapons detection system used in part for tracking firearms.
This shooting did not occur inside of the school building. As in the case of Edmondson, it did not occur inside of the school building.
Earlier this year, an Edmondson Westside High School student was killed during lunchtime and 4 of his classmates hurt in a shooting off campus. The school's principal says even with more than a dozen cameras monitored in his office, it's next to impossible to track students once they leave campus. Not long after the Edmondson shooting, a Forest Park High School student was also killed near his campus. The city school CEO says even with beefed up campus security, the district is still challenged by what's taking place once students head home.
We are looking at larger community issues that touch schools because schools are part of the community.
Issues which the school system hopes can be worked out before students reach campus.
Now, in August of 2024, Baltimore City Schools elected a new chief of school police. Now, oftentimes when you see a new chief come into play, the thought is, okay, what are they going to change? What are they going to adjust? Where'd the last person mess up?
When Baltimore City students return later this month, the district will have a new chief of school police. Jeffrey Shorter will take on the role August 26th. According to City Schools, he has served with the Baltimore Police Department for 28 years. In a statement, Shorter says, and I'm quoting, "I am honored to join Baltimore City Schools, and I am looking forward to continuing and growing the collaborative and supportive partnership between school police, our students, and our school community."
Keep in mind, this is a police department that doesn't allow their officers to carry firearms while they are patrolling in the school during the school day. They have to lock them up. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, but that is what they do. So my hope, seeing this new official getting elected, which, remember, this is back in August of 2024, my hope would be that, with all this experience you have, maybe you have enough sense to push hard for them to change the legislation that would prohibit police officers from carrying their firearms while on duty working at these schools with these kids, which unfortunately, a lot of them are knuckleheads. And even if it's just a small amount of them that are knuckleheads, that small amount can ruin a whole bunch if they bring in firearms and other weapons into the school, because they do bring them in. Sometimes they might get past the detection system, and other times they might get caught at the detection system. But at the end of the day, it's still inside the school. Now, the reality is that, unfortunately, when it comes to gun recovery and crime within the Baltimore City school arena, things have not been looking good. Numbers have been on the rise, like you're going to see in this news clip I'm about to play. Back in February of 2024, there was a push and a bill was propositioned to enable Baltimore City school police officers to be able to carry their firearms while on duty during the school day as they patrol the schools, like they should already be able to do. That bill was proposed.
According to city school officials, police have confiscated almost as many guns in the first 6 months of this year compared to all of last year.
These matters are adopted by the board.
The Chicago Board of Education approved a plan to remove school resource officers next year. The money will go toward wraparound and support services for students instead. The opposite move is currently up for debate in Maryland.
Well, I'm just stopping in. I see you have a full class.
School police patrol school hallways in districts across the state, but in Baltimore City, they're not allowed to be armed while on campus. If a weapon is needed, they have to retrieve one from a secured area. Public reaction to the rule is mixed.
I think it should be a limit. Now if they put up scanners where they scan the kids before they get in school, then that's different. But to have it in school with the kids, no.
I feel as though they should, because these kids is more dangerous than the people who carry these weapons, because they licensed to carry it, but the kids that's coming into school with them.
According to city school officials, resource officers confiscated 15 guns last year. In the first 6 months of this school year, SROs have already confiscated 14 guns.
It should be allowed that they can protect youth that from any imminent danger, of course.
State Senator J.B. Jennings reintroduced legislation to require a city police resource officer to carry a weapon while on assignment on school property. Senator Jennings writes, SROs are sworn police officers who are specially trained to act immediately in a crisis. Seconds count, and our SROs need every tool possible to neutralize a threat before it becomes a tragedy.
Baltimore has been on many, top 3, top 10, top 20 list of most dangerous cities in America. That's no secret. Obviously, there's issues, that Baltimore has when it comes to crime if the school system has its own police department. At least that's how I look at it. What type of incident has to happen for the officials, the school board, and who know the powers that be? What type of incident are they waiting for, to get them to actually make the move to change the policy that prohibits school police officers from being able to carry their firearms while they're patrolling the halls during the school day? It makes no sense. Do they need another school shooting to happen, but one to happen closer to home? There was just one in Wisconsin not too long ago. Come on now. It's not a game out here. Why would you have a police department and then not enable them to protect the kids to the best of their ability when that's literally their whole job? Explain to me how that makes sense. So fast forward to present day in January of 2025. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. You tell me if the school officials and the politicians in Baltimore know what they're doing.
Students walking out of class, finishing up their day to find police vehicles really taking up the roads that Carver-Votech High School sits on in West Baltimore. And tonight, school officials are still working to learn why that assault happened to begin with. A school day ending in violence.
So it's like, what's happening? Is my child safe?
The questions running through Alicia Johnson's mind as she saw several police cars and police tape outside of her daughter's school this afternoon.
I want all children to be safe, but the first thought is, let me check on my child because she attends here.
A spokesperson for Baltimore City Schools says 2 people attacked a Carver Vocational Technical High School student outside of the school during dismissal time this afternoon. In a letter to parents, the Carver principal described the incident as a student altercation and says 2 students and a staff member who was trying to intervene were cut.
So, I'm like, what's going on? And one of the students said that somebody was stabbed.
But at this point, city schools say they cannot confirm what type of weapon was used or who used it. The Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association president, Doc Marvin Cheatham, telling 11 News Tonight he wants people to speak up.
We got to get the community and the residents getting more actively involved. We need to know before these things happen, not after the fact. We need to know if there's some squabbles going on.
And those city schools says everyone involved in the altercation was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's the first thing I get worried about.
Longtime community members say they want to stop any possible future incidents in their tracks.
And it doesn't always have to resort to violence. It's just trying to reach as many students as we can right now.
And Baltimore City Schools, they say that they are still working on a motive behind all of this tonight, and no word on any arrest or charges at this point.
As of January 17, 2025, this is what can be found on the Baltimore City School Police's website under general orders referencing firearms and related procedures. I'm gonna leave it up so you can read it for yourself. It specifies how if you're working during the day on school grounds that your firearm has to be secured elsewhere, and you're only allowed to grab it if it's deemed necessary. Well, let me tell you, to whoever wrote that policy, probably went to college. Clearly, a college degree doesn't mean, that you actually have, the most intelligence because you wrote this crap. But let me tell you, it's gonna be too late. If I hear shooting in a building that I'm in and I don't have my firearm already on me, do you know how much time it would take me, to run across the building and get it? You know how much damage could be done in that amount of time? You know how many lives could be lost in that amount of time? If you're not gonna allow a sworn police officer that went through a full-fledged police academy to carry their firearm while they're working, don't waste the money sending them through the police academy. Don't even call them a police officer. What are you doing? Why commit a whole department to protecting a school system when you're literally taking away one of their most vital tools to protect against the loss of life? Explain that. There's no explanation that makes any sense for why you would have a policy in place that literally takes away a tool that these officers trained with while they was in the academy. And anybody who thinks a police officer shouldn't have their firearm on them because they're working at a school because they're around kids is an idiot. An idiot. Because I guarantee you, if something goes down at that school that their child's at, and there's police there that work there during the day, I guarantee you they're going to be looking and being like, where were the police at? So when they tell them, oh, well, they had to run to their locker to get their firearms when the shooting was going down, they didn't get there in time, what's that parent or that person going to say then? That person that thought, well, I don't want the guns around my kids. the gun is on the hip of a police officer that went through 6+ months of training to carry it. Somebody that's sworn to protect the life of your child. You worried about them, not the knuckleheads that might sneak the guns in, not the fool that might come in because they got some grudge against the school system or against somebody in there. You not worried about them. You worried about the police officer that's carrying their firearm, that's getting paid to protect your kid. That's who you worried about? Get real, man. As far as I know, every other police department in the state of Maryland that has school resource officers, not only do they source them from, their main agency. So if it's Baltimore County, it's a Baltimore County, school resource officer. If it's Anne Arundel County, it's an Anne Arundel County school resource officer. Not only do they source them from, that primary agency, but they don't strip them of any of their gear. Every place in Maryland outside of Baltimore City is considered safer than Baltimore City. So how could it be that Baltimore City could not only decide to spend money to create a police department for their school system, but then think that they were in a position to say, hey, our police officers don't need their firearms when they're working during the day with our kids, even though we felt the need to put metal detectors and weapon detection systems in our schools that you don't see that in other areas of the state. We feel like we have to do that, but the guns that the police have, that they went to the academy with and that they train with, that they carry all the time, yeah. Don't give them that. Every other school system that has school resource officers in the state, they have their guns. But here in Baltimore City, because, we're just that special, we're not going to do that. Don't ask us why.